Everyone, this is Jerry Bolda from Claire Controls. Welcome to another Claire Tech Tuesday. Today, I'd like to talk a little bit more about cameras. We've had a lot of requests for information on, networking. Can these cameras be hacked? Some really basic 101 type questions. So I put together typed up a document here. We're going to go through that document. I'm going to try to get through it quickly because there's quite a bit of content to cover. And then I'm going to show you where you can get a hold of some of these tools that we have accessible on our website. So let's dive in here. I wrote this up here, just at Camera Installation 101. There's some facts. And I tried to answer as many questions as I could. Everything from just the basics as into, what is an IP camera, which is just a digital camera that's using either your Wi-Fi or Ethernet, pushing that video, whether it's getting recorded or not, those signals, it's broadcasting and it's taking it over that Wi-Fi or that Ethernet cable, making it a digital camera instead of an old coax cable or analog or something like that. What is the recommended internet service provider speed to view cameras remotely? That's a tough one to answer. There's so many different variations and numbers of cameras, things like that. You need to know the video resolution, number of cameras, frames per second, video compression. I'm going to show you where you can get our bandwidth calculator because there's really no way to just answer that directly. It really depends on what you're using, in the home or business to be able to answer that question more specifically. So next one down, why does wireless camera have a place to connect an Ethernet cable? Most of these Wi-Fi cameras allow you to connect either way. Some of them actually are truly wireless. You will find those once in a while that have no Ethernet connection on them, but some of them do have the ability to connect to an Ethernet cable. I have run into one camera at one point where I did have to connect the Ethernet cable and then set up the Wi-Fi, but it looked like that was just a firmware thing, and they've updated that camera since then, so you can actually get it right on the Wi-Fi. Next question. This is another good question. SD card, NVR recording, or cloud recording? What are the differences? Why use each one of these? There's different types of camera recordings. With an SD card, typically if you're going to have just maybe a couple different cameras, maybe two cameras or something in the home, and they want to have archived video where you can go back and see the recorded archived video, you can use an SD card. You have to have a camera with an SD card slot, obviously. And then the SD cards typically go from 16 all the way up to 64, maybe 128 megabits. So that brings us to the next point, which is your record time. Depending on the size of the card, NVR or whatnot, that's how long you're going to be able to record. Pay attention to some of these will allow you to overwrite your recordings and some of them won't. So you'll have to read the details of your cameras and what they're able to do. NVR recording, we do have different size NVRs out there. There's all the way from a 4-channel all the way up to a 64-channel. These have built-in hard drives where all of the cameras that are connected to the NVR get recorded to those hard drives. Again, the same thing applies. You can upgrade the hard drive space if you wanted to record for longer, and you can overwrite the recordings as well. Next up is the cloud recording. What is cloud recording? That's some of the newer cameras, a lot of the doorbell cameras, things like that, record to the cloud. There's good and bad about doing that. Some of the good things is maybe you can easily access that from anywhere, your phone, home, away, whatever, wherever you happen to be. But I've never seen cloud recording without a fee. Typically, they're going to charge you either monthly or an annual fee to be able to access those videos. And then, of course, they're going to overwrite it. So the more you pay, the longer you'll have access to the videos and the more space you'll have to record. Again, the record time is the next one down. How many hours, days can I record? Again, that depends on the SD card size, the NVR size, or your cloud subscription. What's up with this wireless networking stuff? Guys, there's the 2.4 gigahertz and the 5 gigahertz networks. We've probably all seen it. I know I've covered this before. There's certain cameras out there today, right now, including some of ours, which is like the doorbell camera, the Claire Video doorbell, can only work right now on a 2.4 gigahertz network. What that means is typically we like to separate your two networks if you're going to be adding the camera, because sometimes the cameras get confused, or not just the camera, it's actually the router, the wireless capabilities in the router. If you have, certain things turned on in the router where you're letting the router make the decision for the device to connect to the 2.4 or the 5 gigahertz network. So we try to recommend getting in there and separating those networks. I have separate documents on that. But yes, to answer the question, there are several cameras out there still that only connect to the 2.4 gigahertz network. It's not only cameras, though. There are other devices as well that do that as well. Hacked. Can my cameras be hacked? Hacking is a possibility. It's not the Claire cameras specifically. It's a lot of these cameras that are out there, it's gotten a lot better than it used to be. I can tell you that. I read logs in my router, things like that, and I can see when people are trying to get in and penetrate the network. They're not just specifically looking for cameras. They look for any open ports, and they look for any way in that they can find. To be able to view the cameras, it's pretty difficult these days. I wrote in here and I noted that using SSL or HTTPS connections, which most of the cameras do these days, and having wireless encryption. Right now, the best one, as they say, is the AES WPA2 encryption. This is for the dealers that go in and configure your routers, obviously. So somebody would need to hack in. Make sure you use good strength passwords, follow the password requirements, things like that, and you'll lessen your chances of being hacked. Next down, camera installations. You get onto the site or you've talked to your customers, things like that, and you say, well, what do they need? You need to ask specific questions to be able to tell what kind of cameras are going to suit their needs. Do they want, is there going to be motion detection recording? How much bandwidth, do they have in the house? How many cameras? Wireless or hardwired? You're going to need to know, where these cameras are going to be placed. Field of view, that's another big one. There's a couple different types of cameras There's fixed view, where they can only, you set it up and what you see is what you get, or you could get analog, or not analog, but other types of cameras where you can actually widen the field of view. Next is the recording capabilities. If you have a large number of cameras, you're probably going to want to use an NVR for that, just because otherwise every camera is going to have an SD card. It's really up to the customer and the dealer to make those decisions. Of course, budget is always a concern as well. So I don't want to keep this too long, but down at the bottom, you can see we do have a new ClearVision Plus version available in the App Store and the Google Play Store, along with new Clear Video firmware for the doorbell. So if you have a doorbell and you're poking around in there, you should see a little blue dot when you do your installation. Make sure that you keep that the doorbell updated, because it's going to help you with lots of different things like volume, things like that. If somebody rings the bell, they've changed some of the messages too if there's nobody home. So keep that in mind. So hopefully this information helps you out. And if you have any other questions and things like this, you can always ask us, and we'll be happy to try to answer any types of questions that relate to this type of information. So thanks for joining us today, and please catch us next time on ClearTech Tuesday. Thank you.